Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special Dementia Town Hall on this 11 a.m. Fireside Chat. I am so grateful that you all have joined us today. We do have in-chapel guests as well as those of you who are joining us on Channel 62 for this very important broadcast that will help us to support those with Alzheimer's disease and dementia. Of course, June is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, and today, which is Monday, July the 21st of 2021, is a significant day. Today is the first day of summer, the first official day of summer. And the summer solstice was on yesterday, and that is the longest day of the year. The Alzheimer's Association has adopted this day to encourage people across the world to connect and outshine the darkness of Alzheimer's disease. So today, we will gain a better understanding of Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, insights on the effects of COVID, as well as isolation has on those with dementia, as well as resources here on campus and elsewhere that are available to help those who are dealing with this devastating disease. So joining me today is our wonderful presenter, and Karen Ellexson is Richfield's dementia coordinator and an independent certified consultant of Positive Approach to Care, which is an organization that focuses on person-centered approaches to care to meet the complex needs of unique individuals with dementia. And this program was developed by renowned dementia expert Teepa Snow. Now, just a little bit about Karen, who is is a wonderful resource right here on campus that we all can utilize, and that includes family members, team members, and others who are trying to navigate through this complex journey that dementia entails. So just to give you a little bit about Karen, she earned her Master's of Science in Physical Therapy in 1996 and has been practicing and a licensed physical therapist for 25 years. 20 plus years, the majority of her career has been in the area of geriatrics, and she has been providing long-term care, direct patient care as a staff therapist, providing team management and clinical program development as a rehab director, area manager, and clinical specialist. Caring for people living with dementia is a passion of Karen's, which has led to her becoming certified in the area of being an independent advanced consultant and trainer for PAC, as well as a certified dementia practitioner. As I mentioned, Karen has experience with those facing challenges from a professional standpoint, also a personal standpoint as well, as her father was diagnosed with early onset dementia at the young age of 57 and passed away at 76, 19 years later. So these experiences gave her the drive to be a part of change and the need to raise awareness. Karen is the founder of the Sapphire Dementia Partners Group and is providing dementia education and the following consultant services right here at Richfield Living. And that includes, once again, staff development and education, promoting cultural change as the community transitions from a medical model to the household model of care. And she is a certified support group facilitator through the Alzheimer's Association. She is a member of the Alzheimer's Association Political Action Group, which is called AIM, And she is also a member of the American Physical Therapy Association geriatric section. So I introduce to you to some and welcome to others Ms. Karen Ellexson, who will be providing us with very resourceful information in the area of dementia. Thank you so much for joining us today, Karen.
Thank you, Ms. Vickie.
And I will turn it over to you.
Well, that was a first. I've not had to stand and listen to my own introduction. Makes me feel a little funny. But thank you for your kind introduction. I am Karen Ellexson. I am a physical therapist. As Vickie said, I've been doing this for a long time. I was like 96. Do I have to tell everyone how old I am? But this is a professional journey for me as well as a personal journey. And when my dad was diagnosed 25 years ago, we didn't have nearly the information and the resources that we do now. So it is my honor and my passion to help raise awareness, to help people gain knowledge, and to learn the skills that will help us provide a better quality of dementia care. It's really important. We have over 5 million people in the United States that are living with this diagnosis. So part of this is the personal part, and this is honoring the journey that my parents took. My mom was his caregiver. That's her there for 19 years, 12 of it in the home and 7 in a nursing facility. And that's me and my dad when we're towards the end. And again, it is just so important to give the resources that we have to people to help them understand and to maintain that connection. Because this disease is going to change a lot, but what we really want is to maintain that connection and that relationship for as long as we can. So let me tell you a little bit about Positive Approach to Care. It is a company, as Vickie mentioned, founded by Teepa Snow. If you have never seen her in person and you have an opportunity, go do it. If she asks you to be a volunteer, good luck. She is the most excellent dementia patient portrayal that I have ever seen. She can give you real hands-on experience with that. But the mission statement is that we use our talents and abilities to develop awareness, spread knowledge, and teach skills to transform what exists into a more positive dementia care culture. So let's start out with awareness and knowledge. We're going to try to identify some of the changes in the brain that are going to happen with dementia. So the early warning signs: memory loss for recent or new information and repeating themselves frequently. Difficulty doing familiar but difficult tasks initially, maybe managing money, medication, driving, problems with word finding, misnaming or misunderstanding, getting confused about time or place. Hold on, works better with my glasses. Worsening judgment, not thinking things through like before. Problem solving and reasoning are going to get sketchy. Misplacing things. But this isn't just I left my keys somewhere and I can't find them. This is more, I go to the refrigerator and I open the fridge at my parents' apartment and there are my dad's sunglasses. Okay? So the sunglasses, you don't expect to find those in the fridge. And that's different than just I've misplaced something. Changes in mood or behavior. As my brain changes, I am less able to assess your facial expressions, your body language, but mostly your words. And I may seem more egocentric, that it's all about me and my needs. So the changes in mood or behavior, if I'm having difficulty processing the world around me, I may appear much more agitated. I may have a short temper, a short fuse. I might say things to you that you've never heard me say. I might use language differently. And I've lost my inhibitions, so at this point, I may just out and out say something kind of mean, like, boy, Karen, you've put on some weight, you're looking fat. That's not cool. But that is not my dad talking. That's dementia. Changes in typical personality and loss of initiation, withdrawing from normal patterns of activities and interests. Now, I might do that because it's too hard. I might do that because it feels frustrating. Or I might do that because I'm aware of my deficits and I don't want people to know. So is it dementia? Or is it something else? So a lot of times when people start having memory difficulties, we jump right to, oh my God, they have dementia. What am I going to do? And it isn't necessarily so. There are a lot of different things that can look like dementia. It can be a symptom of another health condition. Thyroid issues, other metabolism issues can present with cognitive deficits. This thing is sliding because I keep knocking it with my reading glasses. Sorry. I don't want to be in your ear. Okay. It could be a medication side effect, and I've got a list that we'll get to later of all the different medications that can affect our cognition. Hearing loss and vision loss. If I can't see well and I can't process what's going on around me, it really can impact my ability to communicate. Hearing loss. If I don't hear you, then I can give you a lot of wrong responses. And it's not that I don't understand, it's just that I didn't hear you. Depression. Depression can really affect cognition as well as delirium. And we'll look at the differences between those two. Pain. If you are in constant chronic pain, it can affect your cognition. Stress as well, and any other type of mental health condition. So we want to really make sure that we're digging in and finding out what's going on before we assume that it's dementia and that there's nothing else we can do. So two of the mimics of dementia are delirium and depression. These are big ones. When you think about delirium, this is a rapid change. Like the person was fine in the morning, and you go back the next day and they can't get out of bed, they can't get the words out of their mouth. It is often caused by an infection or toxicity in a medication. And it really is a medical emergency. And that's something, if somebody goes through a drastic change, it's something we need to get medical attention on and get it addressed. Depression, it's chronic unless it's treated. You get more of that apathy. I don't know. I can't. I don't want to. Sadness. I've been reading some research recently that said in men, it may present more as being angry and agitated, and less the sadness and feeling depressed. The condition can improve with attention and treatment, but both of them signal a vulnerable brain. There may be something else going on, even if we're not to that point yet. So these are side-by-side comparisons. Depression, I can't think, I can't remember, it's not worth it. Loss of function, some pretty big mood swings. The personality change, and again, that one's kind of tricky. Changes in sleep patterns. A delirium is that quick change. It may happen in 12 to 24 hours, 48 hours. It can be characterized by hallucinations and delusions. You get on and off responses. And really what we were talking about just a moment ago, infection and toxicity are one of some of the big culprits. So here is a list of drugs that can affect cognition. And when I saw this, and then you think about our geriatric population and what sorts of medications they're on, hello, this is a big problem. So if these medications, and the other thing about it that's frustrating is that our geriatric population is on a lot of medications. Many folks take between 10 and 20 medications. So then if you talk about how they might be interacting, as well as the fact that individually they might cause cognitive deficits, we want to be looking at that. So heart medications, antiarrhythmic agents, even antibiotics, antihistamines, decongestants, and I don't know about any of you, but me right now, I am taking a lot of those. The allergies are killing me this spring, and I worry about it, and I try not to take it. And then I can't breathe and I'm sneezing my face off. So yeah, here we go. Anticholinergic agents, anticonvulsants, antiemetics, histamine receptor blockers, immunosuppressant agents, muscle relaxants, narcotic pain meds, sedative pain meds, and anti-Parkinson agents. So if you are in the position of having somebody who's going to have to be evaluated, that you are seeing changes, it's really important to bring that medication list when you go. Try not to knock my mic. Okay, so mild cognitive impairment is a diagnosis that hasn't been around for a real long time. It's the beginning of a not normal condition. We're going to see memory, language, behavior, and motor skills changes. It's not life-altering. It's not to the point where I'm going to have trouble functioning, but it's a sign that there might be something ahead. And it also might be a sign that it was one of these other things that we've just talked about, that it's a medication or a metabolism issue. So we want to keep that in the back of our heads. It could be the beginning of dementia. It could be a symptom of another health condition, medication side effect, like we talked about, hearing loss, vision loss, depression, delirium, pain. All of those things can impact our cognitive function. If you notice changes, what should we do? Really need to get an assessment and go see the doctor. Now, I know there's a lot of stigma surrounding dementia, and that makes it hard for families. And it makes it hard for people who know you have it in your family. My dad was diagnosed at 57. I am 54. So I look at my schedule and I say, has this been an especially busy week? Am I stressed? How much allergy medicine did I take? And am I just absent-minded, or do I have to pay attention? Because there's a part of me that very much understands that we need to get a diagnosis, and the sooner we get it, the better we're able to support this person, and the more effective it's going to be. But as the person who might be facing a diagnosis in the next few years, I don't want to go. I'll just be straight up with you. I don't want to go. So it's a very difficult issue. And what we're asking our family members to do when they go is a big ask. And we have to be aware that we're asking it. So what should happen when you're going to the doctor? So now there's been a big increase in the number of people getting early onset dementia in this country. We're seeing people in their 30s and 40s getting diagnosed with dementia. So I want you to compare the list between if you're concerned under 65 and if you are concerned and you're the age over 65. Can you tell me the big differences? There aren't any. If you are having trouble, these are the things that need to happen. You need to screen your thinking. Now, this is something that might be done at the doctor's office, but I'm also going to give you a couple of examples of things. There's one in particular that you can do at home. And we're going to do the animal fluency test that's listed here. Some of the other assessments they do are the mini mental and the slums. Those are not as effective at getting to the core of what's happening with dementia. When my dad was diagnosed, they used to take him to the, I won't say which geriatric assessment place, but he went for his annual assessment or if they were having issues. And part of the mini mental, there's a portion where you have to memorize 3 different items. They ask you a bunch of questions, and then at the end, you have to give them back those 3 items. Well, they never changed the 3 items. So my dad would go, I'm going to see the doctor today. And he's like, apple, table, penny. And he knew. He was practicing. So was that getting a good score of what's happening in his dementia? No. So know that these are some of the tests that are out there, but they're not necessarily the definitive, the be-all, or the end-all. And if you don't change up your testing, there's an ability to practice and to rehearse. So he would, going to see the doctor, apple, table, penny. The big part of this is open discussions about what, when, who, where, and why. When is this happening? What are you seeing? What's going on in the environment? Where were you? and really have those discussions. And it really needs to be the person who is living with dementia, the family member who's observing this, as well as the physician. When my dad reached the point where he shouldn't be driving anymore, we went to the doctor, and it was a hard decision, and we asked my dad if he wanted to do it alone or if he wanted us to go in with him. He said, "No, I got this. So he goes in, and we're waiting anxiously outside. How's this going to go? He comes out, and he's all cheerful, waves at me in the waiting room while he goes to make his rescheduling appointment. And I'm just nothing. So I walk over, "Hey, Dad, how did it go?" Because I'm concerned, right? He's going to be really upset. And he looks at me, he's like, "Oh, no big deal, but I've got to go for the, you know." And I was like, "What in the world is that?" And he was like, "You know, where they put that scope." And I was like, "A colonoscopy?" And he's like, "Yes. So you talked about your driving and what you need is a colonoscopy." And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, hold on one second. And I had to go back to the nurse and say, "Hey, I think my dad forgot what the issue was that we were supposed to talk about." And we had to go back in and actually have the conversation. And I really, truly don't believe he did it because he didn't want to have the conversation. He just went in and the doctor asked, "How are you doing? Is everything going okay?" "Well, you're due for your colonoscopy." "Okay." And out he went with his paper. So it's really important that family members, the person living with the disease, and the care provider all are on the same page. So this is the animal fluency test. And this one's kind of fun. Now, my family, when we went on car trips, my kids growing up, we always did 20 questions about animals, right? So I'm thinking of an animal, and I'd ask, is it a mammal? Does it live in North America? Does it live in South America? So we have a vast array of animals that we have discussed in detail in my family. So this animal fluency test, for me, I might have a fairly high number of animals that I can identify in 1 minute's time. And it's basically I would be doing this with a partner. So if you were my partner, you would have a piece of paper, and you don't have to write down all the animals I'm saying. You're going to say, "Tell me as many animals as you can think of." And as I name animals, you just make hash marks, and then you can count out how many hash marks I have. So this is an overall scale. If you have 12, that's normal if you're over 65. If you have 18 and you're under 65, that's normal. But that's not really that good of a scale. What you want to do is compare yourself to yourself over time. So maybe on New Year's Day, you're going to do your animal fluency test and see how it compares to your animal fluency test that you did a year ago. Okay? Because then you're comparing me to me. So if I got 25 the first time, and I've gotten 25 every year, and then the next year I do it and I get 15, that's a change, okay? That's something I need to probably discuss with my doctor and with my family. So this is something that you can use at home, and it's not invasive, it's not scary, and you don't necessarily want to point out the time frame and that you're being timed, because that can stress people out. Name as many animals as you can, but you as the person who's keeping track, you're the one who's going to be watching the clock and say, "Okay, stop." And if we're just doing this for fun, then you give them the paper and then you try to name all the animals. And then it's not an activity that I am testing you, I am judging you, I'm going to tell you how good or poorly you've done. And that's something we want to stay away from. So this one here is a more recent screening, and this is one that you may get from a physician's office. I would hope you would get from a physician's office. And it's really for the person who is spending a lot of time with the person who may be having symptoms. Does your family member have problems with judgment? Do they show less interest in regular activities and hobbies that they used to enjoy? Do they have trouble learning how to use a tool, an appliance, or a gadget? I will tell you, though, that this is tricky. My son is home from the Army, and he is my IT specialist because he's home, and he's younger than me, and he gets it, right? So take this with somewhat of a grain of salt when you're thinking about that. Does your family member use the correct month or year? Do they have trouble handling complicated financial affairs? Does the checkbook escape them now? Does your family member have trouble remembering appointments? Do they have problems with thinking or memory? And your score is, this is changed, this is not changed, or I don't know. Again, this is screening. We're trying to identify what's going on. When getting at a diagnosis, what do we need to do, folks? A complete physical, medical, and psychological history. So this is some in-depth stuff, and we're not always going to be prompted by the physician's office to bring it. So this is stuff that we want to be prepared for. I'd love to say that all of our GPs and that our neurologists are up to date on all of this, but that's not the case. And that's not what we're seeing with people coming into our community here and the kinds of diagnoses they have. So you want to be prepared and be your own best advocate. A good history from the person and the family of what's going on, what are you seeing? A thorough, the physical exam, the neurological exam, and a cardiac exam, as well as blood work. So blood work can pull up some of the things we were talking about, like perhaps a low thyroid. It could show some anemia. It could show diabetes. It could show that you are getting a toxicity to one of the medications you've been taking. So it's important. A complete medication review, and this is something generally that a pharmacist can help with. So this is what they're taking. This is how much. Is there anything here that could be causing an interaction? And a lot of times at this point, they do an imaging study, a CT scan or a PET, an MRI. And a lot of times those are inconclusive. And because you have something that is visible on a scan, it doesn't necessarily mean, sorry, this thing is crazy. I can't be a pop star, no Britney Spears. Can you imagine if I was dancing too? It would never stay. Because you see something on a scan doesn't necessarily mean that you have symptoms that go with it. Those would be my glasses, right back. Neuropsychological testing. Now, this is something that I have seen be very beneficial because they're looking at how you solve different tasks, whether it's a visual task, whether it's a puzzle, a word problem, and the neuropsychologist generally can dive into where the person is having trouble in their brain. We used to have a neuropsychologist that I worked with at Lewis Gale that was amazing. We had a lot of patients come through with strokes, CVAs, and to be able to sit with that neuropsychologist and go through the areas where this person was having trouble really helped us pinpoint our therapy on the areas that we wanted to work on. So if this is something that you have available, please take advantage of it. And follow-up. A lot of times this doesn't really happen. Again, we've just passed legislation last year to do a pilot study of 100 people who get diagnosed with dementia and how they do with case management, where you're actually hooked up with providers, whether it be caregivers who can come into the home, whether it's hooking up with a support group, and helping people manage this. Because really, a lot of times what happens is you come in, you get the diagnosis, and out the door you go. And there you are. So there's more out there, and we're going to help you find it. But we are just getting to the point where we're using that as a pilot to say this is something that we need for our people who are living with dementia. We need those resources. We need those lists. We need to know where to find the help. So if you're a family member or you're a friend or you're in the community and you're thinking, something might be happening, what do I do? Well, for number one, be supportive. Don't be afraid to talk about it. There's this strange, I don't want anybody to know. Well, people are gonna know. There's gonna be changes. Be an advocate. Have that information. Have the things that you need when you go into the doctor's office. Help give that clear picture so maybe you can get the right diagnosis, or at least a more specific diagnosis that might help you prepare and get better support. You want to work out healthcare support, including POA, power of attorney, medical and financial. This is a chronic progressive disease. It is terminal. We do that with other terminal diseases, but we don't often do it for dementia. Check with your doctor, raise your concern, consider a neuropsych assessment, and consider seeing a specialist, I can't say that one, geriatrician, there we go, neurologist and geropsychiatrist. Because at the end of the day, this is what we're dealing with. Dementia equals neurodegeneration equals brain failure. When you go to the doctor or somebody goes to the hospital and they come out with a diagnosis of heart failure, what do you think? Does it sound serious? Absolutely. If you came out of the doctor's office and they said your loved one had brain failure, I think people would understand more and realize how serious this is and how much support a family is going to need. At this point in this country, only 1 of 5 families gets through this with the family intact. There are a lot of hard decisions. The changes in the brain are very difficult to deal with. And if you don't have that support, and if you don't have a team in place, and you can't have open communication, a lot of times families don't get through this together at all. Only 1 in 5 survive this with their family intact. At least 2 parts of the brain are actively dying. It is chronic. It cannot be fixed. It is progressive, and it will get worse. And it is terminal. And those are really hard things to hear. But it's a reality for over 5 million people in this country. So let's talk about a little bit what dementia is. Dementia is an umbrella term, okay? Underneath that are all the different types of dementia, and at this point there are over 100 different definitive types of dementia. Now clearly we're not getting that specific information most of the time. The one that we hear the most about is the Alzheimer's disease, right? The Alzheimer's Association used to be called the Alzheimer's Association and Associated Dementias. Well, that certainly is a mouthful. But it doesn't mean that there aren't other types of dementia as well as Alzheimer's. And if we do get specific information, we want to make sure we're paying attention to that information. Lewy body dementia, for example, is a dementia that's characterized by hallucinations. So if you were a person living with Lewy body, would that be something you would want to know? Yeah. So if you're seeing something really weird and really squirrely, would it be important also that your loved one or your care partner also knows that you have hallucinations? So then if I'm seeing something that is really weird, it's scary, I'm going to give you the example that happened to my grandmother. Look at all those beautiful green frogs on the walls. Beautiful green frogs on the walls? And I didn't know what to do. I was a high school student. I was like, oh, wow, okay, green frogs. I said, are they cute? Are they scary? She said, they're real cute. She loved nature. She loved the outside. I'm like, okay, well, as long as they're cute and they're not bothering anything, I guess they can stay. But for someone who has got that disease, got that diagnosis, if I know that I can go to you and say, hey, Dave, will you come look at this with me? Do you see little green frogs all over the bathroom? And if you tell me, no, I really don't see that, and I'm in an early enough stage of dementia, I can go, oh, thank God. I had no idea how we were going to get them all out of here. but I think I want to go use the bathroom in the other hall. It's going to be important to know. Now, as I get farther into that disease process, that might not be a conversation we can have anymore. But what a sense of relief to be able to go, oh, whew, okay, it's just the hallucination from Lewy body. There aren't really giant frogs in the bathroom. So, I've got pictures of two brains, okay? The big brain, the big juicy brain, is the normal brain, quote unquote. The second brain is a brain with Alzheimer's. What kind of things do you notice? It's smaller, it's darker, absolutely. Does it look like it's getting enough nutrients? Does it look like the waste products are getting out? Probably not. It is looking pretty bad. So when you think about the brain, all of that tissue, see if you can see me pointing, all of that tissue there are connections that allows us to process the world around us and interact in it. All of those are vital connections. What happens when we get here? Do you think that message is getting to where it needs to go? Not reliably. And that's what's hard about this. It fluctuates. So sometimes I can do it, and sometimes I can't. And that's frustrating as a care partner. And you can start to feel like, man, she'll never do this for me, but when my sister Kristen comes, oh, she's all smiles and giggles, and she gets it done. Mom doesn't want to do this with me. It's about me. And once we start assuming that what we're seeing is manipulation, is something other than the person's best ability to function, we get into trouble. Because I want you to remember this picture of the brain, and part of the reason I show this is that we can access our empathy, that we can access the fact that this is their best ability to function. And if I could see into your head and see that brain, I might go, yeah, no wonder she's having a hard time. That doesn't look like it's working real good. When we have people who have a disability that's visible, it's easier to access that empathy. I can see that you're struggling to walk. I can see that you're using a walker. I can see that you might need more time. You might not be as good at this as somebody else. But I can't see that in your brain. And it's harder for me to not react to what I'm seeing and remember, this is my best ability to function. So what changes in the brain? We're going to have structural changes because we could see that there's a lot more spaces. Let me go back. There's so much more space where there used to be connection, right? So there are structural changes, but there are also chemical changes. Oops, wrong way. The cells are shrinking and dying. The cells are not producing as much of those neurotransmitters that help get those messages across those synapses. But that doesn't mean, again, that there aren't times where I'm going to have a fabulous day and I can really shine, and you get that somewhat lucid moment, and you're like, oh, maybe she doesn't have it after all. And then the next day, it's back. So we have to learn to capture and enjoy those moments, be in the moments, so that we can celebrate them when they occur. So things that are helpful. These are just in general. And if you look at them, what else are they? Are they helpful just for dementia, or is it helpful for all of us? Physical activity, mental activity, social activity, spiritual involvement, well-being and self-worth. I still have skills. I still can do things. I want to do things with meaning and purpose. Minimize risky, challenging, or dangerous behaviors. Well, we can talk about that one. I am supposed to be losing weight. My cholesterol is high. My son came home from the Army. He's going to school in the fall. He's done with that 3.5 years of stress. Guess how many healthy diet foods I've been making and how many comfort meals and things that are his favorites I've been making. And I have been making his favorites. My husband said to me this morning after the Father's Day weekend, he's like, seriously, the diet is back on this week. Because we had brunch with an Eggs Benedict, and I made burgers and sweet corn and potatoes and peaches with cream for dessert. All of those very heart-healthy things, right? So do we have those things? Yes, we do. But we want to minimize them. We want to help people and reduce anxiety or distress. So I leave this up here, but I want us to think about what happened this last year. What happened with COVID? What we saw, what we knew already is that people who have dementia and who are isolated, they don't do as well. And that can be self-isolation. I'm not going to that. I don't want to go out. What if I'm embarrassed? Or it might be my family member. I'm not taking him out. He's embarrassing me. He walked into the dressing room behind me, and there were other ladies in the dressing room. My mom was mortified. So she stopped taking him. So isolation we know is bad, but we didn't know how deadly it was until COVID hit. And we shut down facilities, and family members couldn't come in. We tried so hard to do virtual. But for somebody living with dementia, that's a big ask. I cannot figure out that little picture talking at me in a phone or in a tablet is my loved one. One incident that broke my heart, the staff member was so excited, "It's your son on the phone," and handed her the tablet. She took that tablet and she looked at it, and all she could see were the smudges and the reflections. So she took her shirt, pulled it up, rubbed at that tablet till she got it clean, and then handed it back to the staff member. And I said, "Okay, we'll try again soon." What we're seeing now, and there's going to be a lot more research that comes out as it's compiled, that isolation is deadly. That isolation, we didn't realize how badly it would affect our people living with dementia, okay? And it is severe. So what it tells us, now that things are opening up again, is how important these things up here are. That we do go outside, that we get some sunshine, that we get physical activity, that we get mental activity, that we're taking care of the body, the mind, and the spirit. And we're giving people opportunities to do things that gives them that sense of satisfaction and self-worth. Once I decide that you can't do it anymore, how does that feel? If I'm the person and nobody thinks I can do anything anymore, and nobody says thank you or, "Oh, you did a good job," that would be really hard. And we don't want to do that to people. Even if I have to go back later and redo whatever task it is worth it. If you enjoy it and you feel good about it and you get a sense of satisfaction and a job well done, perfect. It's worth it to me, and go back and refold those towels later. Or wash off that table after you've gotten busy doing something else. But just don't let me catch you going behind me. Or don't let me catch you, or it might not go so well. So what happens with dementia? It changes everything over time, okay? Did you see on that brain picture any part of the brain that was spared? You know, there's no little file cabinet with our memories in it, and that's all that's affected. It's the whole thing. It's going to start up here in our prefrontal cortex, and we're going to lose all those skills we worked so hard on. Those are going to go away first. Then as it progresses, I'm going to lose my communication skills. I'm going to lose my ability to process things visually, to understand language. I'm going to hear you, and I'm going to see you, but I'm not going to comprehend what you're telling me. So you're going to think you've told me everything that's going to happen, and then you might get a huge reaction from me, and you're like, "I told you exactly what I was going to do." Well, you told me, but I don't get the words anymore. So you're going to have to show me. You're going to have to use gestures. You're going to have to use visual cues. Do you want something hot? Hold up a coffee mug, or do you want something cold? A water glass. Yes or no? You want the red one or the blue one? You want bologna or tuna fish? And this is, here's the bologna. Here's the can of tuna fish. Then I have a better idea of what you're asking me. It is not something a person can control. This is important. It is not the same for every person. There is a saying, if you have met one person with dementia, you have met one person with dementia. It's going to look different for everybody. It is not a mental illness. It is real, and it is very hard. So, these are the founding principles and beliefs. The relationship is the most critical, not the outcome of one encounter. We truly, as their care partners, are the key to making life worth living. If I've lost my words and my ability to communicate, I am counting on the person who knows me the best to figure out what it is that I need and how to help me. People living with dementia are doing the best they can. And spoiler alert, this works really good with everybody else in the world. If you take the premise that people are doing the best that they can, it makes our process of going through this life a lot better. Once we try to figure out the ulterior motive, or if somebody's manipulating us, or if something else is going on, we lose our ability to access our empathy, and we lose our ability to be curious and to problem solve. And at the end of the day, and this one's hard, hold on, we must be willing to change ourselves. Can the person living with brain change be responsible for solving the problem? Will our instructions to them help them learn or remember? They can't. We're the ones with the big juicy brain, and we're the ones who are going to have to adapt. So, in this process, in my own personal journey, my parents died a year apart. My dad died in December. My mom died the following year. I really thought we might lose my mother first. This is a hard process. And a lot of caregivers do end up perishing before their loved one who's living with dementia. So it's essential that you do some things for yourself. And that's a hard ask. I have to change myself? How do I do that? So in the time after my dad had died and, my mom was passing, I ran across some books by Brené Brown. And I highly recommend them because as you get to know yourself and as you get to know how we process information and feelings and how we communicate with other people, we can make some of those changes that are needed. So in order to change ourselves, we've got to know ourselves. So practicing is what we want to do. So I'm going to read you a little paragraph from Brené Brown, and it's called Courage, Compassion, and Connection, the Gifts of Imperfection. Practicing courage, compassion, and connection in our daily lives is how we cultivate worthiness. The key word is practice. We're not going to get it right every time. Courage is like, it's a habitus, a habit, a virtue. You get it by courageous acts. It's like you learn to swim by swimming. You learn courage by couraging. The same is true for compassion and for connection. We invite compassion into our lives when we act compassionately toward ourselves and others. The little voice in your head can be your worst enemy. Befriend that little voice. You're going to need it. And we feel connected in our lives when we reach out and we connect. Compassion comes from saying, I've been there, and connection fuels our worthiness. So when you think about courage, it's not so much the heroic act, it's to speak one's mind by telling one's heart. It is being able to tell our truth to people that we trust. Compassion is to suffer with, not to self-protect, and that's hard too. Because if I come in and I'm an expert, let me put on my expert hat. Let me just tell you how to fix this. Do you need that from me? No. You need me to sit with you and say, I've been there. This is hard. What would be most important for you to work on that would make you feel better, safer? How do we make this connection? Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, when they feel heard, and when they feel valued. This is a really good book. Her Dare to Lead book is also wonderful as well. And as a person who is living with someone who is living with dementia, or a person living with dementia, you are a leader as we go through this. You are a leader to the people who come behind you. Ooh, almost threw my clicker. Got all excited. Because at the end of the day, it's the relationship. So we want to develop awareness and compassion for ourselves and for others. We want to be present in the moment. If we get too far ahead, but what if this happens? What if somebody sees me? What if she has an accident? What if? Be present, be in the moment. I wanted it to be this, we're going to have this great Mother's Day thing, and she's not having any of it. But there's a bench outside in the sunshine, and there's some beautiful daisies next to it. Maybe that's what I have instead. Make the connections. Observe changes. If you can take yourself out of that agitation and the upset that can happen when you're having a difficult time with somebody, and observe what's happening. What's going on in the environment? What else might be going on? And stay curious and stay creative. What else is possible? What could we do next time? What could we do instead? And like I said in the last slide, it's practice. And guess what? If we don't get it right this time, we're going to have another opportunity in probably T-minus 5 minutes, because those things are going to come back around again. And cultivate gratitude and joy when you get those moments. Okay, so I do have resources that I've printed out for Miss Vickie, and I have in there, it has my contact information here on campus. It also has information on our Richfield Dementia Support Group. That meets monthly. It's the second Thursday of the month, and it's over at JCT, and that's at 2 o'clock. And we also meet virtually at 12. During the pandemic, we moved to a virtual support group, which was really helpful. But it was interesting because we got family members who didn't live in this area. So now that we're back in person, I feel like we still need to keep that virtual group, so for family members who may not be as close here. I also have included on there the Teep of Snow website. There are all sorts of videos and articles, an online dementia journal, resources. The Alzheimer's Association has a 24/7 hotline, and I've included that number on that resource sheet. So hopefully it'll give you some things to check out and to look at. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you for being here. Thank you for being interested and helping us make the change for a more positive dementia culture.
Well, Karen, we certainly thank you for all of the insights that you have provided us here today and those who are watching. Brilliant information and lots of new things.
Good.
I too am a
You are very welcome.
I am a certified dementia practitioner, and some things that you brought up or knew that I haven't even had the opportunity to learn. So we just appreciate all of your dedication and the lively way in which you presented this information kept us all really, really enthralled. And so thank you so much. We just appreciate all that you do in this area and all that you do for the residents here at Richfield and the community in general. We will see more programming with regard to dementia with our Richfield Roundtable. We'll be having these discussions periodically. And also today, after the broadcast, Karen will be in the Town Center atrium to meet and greet any family members, team members who have any questions or would just like to make her acquaintance for, you know, whatever opportunity may come up that you may need her for information and for resources. As she mentioned, there is a resource guide that we can provide a copy. And until the next time, please be sure, as Karen mentioned lastly, to just be kind to one another, especially those who are dealing with this issue, those who have the disease, those who are caring for those with the disease. You know, kindness and compassion goes a very long way. And so that's one thing that I think we can leave, a note we can leave with today. So we look forward to meeting you downstairs in the town center. And thank you so much for joining us today. And once again, Karen, thank you for all that you do and all of your dedication to the residents here at Richfield.
You are very welcome.
Yes. Thank you all so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful Monday.